All right, let's get started. So it is week 13. You guys almost finished. It's May 23rd. It's week 13. This is Gamma reading. Oops, I gotta change something. Slideshows don't work so well. I don't know why. PowerPoint won't let me turn off the second screen. Wish it would just do full screen this one, nothing, but you can't. All right. Yeah, so how's everyone doing? We're talking about crime and punishment. Probably not a great topic to talk about, but we'll see. So, yeah. But let's look at the storyboard, storytelling Padlet. You guys, some of you did it, so thank you for doing that. We're supposed to finish the story, though, you know? So if you can, add something. Add something to the story. Once upon a time, he met a woman at a party one evening. They met for coffee and talked for 2 hours before work. They dived into a deep conversation as if they had been close friends for years. Wonderful. Suddenly, her phone started ringing. Something. Then she was wondering about what happened to his sick dog. That's like later in the story. Then he said, I sent my dog to the army for my nation. Everything is for USA. And then somewhere here, they never saw each other again. The end. Maybe she disagreed with him. Maybe she's like anti-American. Maybe she doesn't believe in war. I don't know. We need to finish this. So go ahead, write something. Because I wanted to practice doing task B with you guys. It's been a difficult time trying to do these things together in an online class. Some of you guys participate, so thank you. I know you don't have to do anything, but let's see what else is happening this week. So tomorrow I have a presentation. If you guys are interested in going, let's see if I can find. Let me send this image to myself. There it is. Let's send it to myself. To Jazzo. Come on, work. Go to my downloads. Boop, boop, boop. There it is. Receive the photo. So tomorrow I have a presentation. If you guys are interested, developing autonomous learning strategies using online tools. I don't know why I use these titles, but basically like learning online by using some online tools, becoming a better student. I will be presenting tomorrow. Let me send you guys the link if you're interested. But it's kind of what we've already been doing in class, using things like Quizlet, but going kind of deeper into how you guys can become better online learners, independent learners, students that can manage their schedule, ways to manage your schedule, tools that you can use. I jump all over the place, but if you guys are interested, you ladies and gentlemen, let me add that to the Padlet. So if you're interested, that's tomorrow. Oh, it's at 3:15 o'clock. I still have to finish making that presentation. If you guys are interested, there's that. And let's just make this the link. Boom. If you guys are interested, share it with your friends. Share it with your classmates. Share it with the world. I don't know. This is what I do. I get to do presentations when I'm not teaching. All right. Yeah, let's find a song that represents the story. Let's find a drawing or an image. Make it on AI if you want. That represents the story. Let's find characters. Find two actors that can play these characters. Which characters? The ones from this story we're trying to write. Some kind of love story, drama. Maybe something crazy happens. You can scroll through the timeline. I can make the timeline shorter or longer. It doesn't matter. All you gotta do is add your thing somewhere. You can write your name. You don't have to write your name. Just mark it as complete so I know that you did it. But maybe you don't. Okay, so you can do it after class, of course. You can do it now. You can tell me it here, and I could just write it for you and add your name for you. But yeah, lots of things. Oh, yeah. I guess I'll share. I'm just gonna share it from my phone. Let me get it ready before I do anything weird. So yeah, I just came back from Belgrade. That was yesterday. I'll just put it right here. There's some photos of things. Won't play any sounds, but there's the Danube River. As you fly in, it's a very green country. Lots of forests, lots of parks everywhere. Staying at a little Airbnb. That was where I was staying. Oh yeah, this is Belgrade. I think it's like a capital city with 2 million people. I think the country only has like 8 million. It's pretty small. I went to go visit some friends who work in Belgrade at a film production company. So they make commercials. They were working. I love their office. It's like this old building. Yeah, lots of churches. Lots of history there. Lots of long history. And they always tell you, Serbian people will always talk about their history, long, proud history, tragic history as well. The war that happened in the 90s and kind of ongoing conflict based on these places, these churches. So they're Christian Orthodox. What else? Yeah, I went for a conference. It's probably pretty small. What happens when I flip it? Oh, that's nice. Yeah, a little conference. English language teaching. This is this man from America who works in Belgrade from my organization. Mika something. Great talk about teachers as sailors by Tamrika. Georgian heritage. Let me just keep flipping this around. Screens. Yeah, learned lots of things. Met some interesting people. There was a protest on Friday in Belgrade against the government, against the gun violence. I don't know if you know, but they had 2 shootings 2 weeks ago. And there were just people walking from all over. Took over their city. I think over 10,000 people. Just walking. They stopped the traffic. Here's the news article. Tens of thousands gather in Belgrade protests over mass shootings and to change their government. president's been in power for 10 years, so there's some kind of similarities with what's happening there and in Turkey. And this lady, she said, "Hey, Bob." I was like, "Hi." She's like, I taught her like 3 years ago on an online class for teachers, and I had never met her in person. She's from Russia, from Kamchatka. It's like a peninsula, lots of nature, very, very far right side of the map. Um, and yeah, I never met her before in person, so it was nice. This is my colleague, Esra, who was presenting there. So I got to go see her presentation, take some photos with her. My hair is a mess. I need to get a haircut. And yeah, lots of things talked about climate change and teaching and how do we do that? How do teachers are able to do that? I think one of the coolest presentations, the one that I enjoyed the most, was about, I guess you can't really see it, but she talks about reading. And this is an interesting quote if you ever think about this. And maybe you understand because it makes sense to you, but we were never born to read. Human beings invented reading only a few thousand years ago. And with this invention, we rearranged the very organization of our brain. So our brain organized in a different way now, which in turn expand the ways we were able to think, which altered the intellectual evolution of our species. So you got to think about that, right? We invent this thing called reading, called writing. And no other animals can do this, right? I mean, some animals can leave messages in different ways, but never through writing. And so, yeah, we have this thing that's getting kind of destroyed. She calls it readicide. The systematic killing of the love of reading, often made worse, made worse by the inane, boring, mind-numbing practices found in school. That's a quote from Gallagher, 2009. See how we use these, okay? These citations from the writing class. People use this. This is like just normal. If I wanted to look up Gallagher 2009, I could probably find it. Oftentimes after a presentation or a speech, the presenter will give all the references. Okay, so this isn't just for writing, it's for everything. Making presentations, I do this as well. If I use a source, if I use a book that I found some information or a web page, I will put references too. But readicide, remember we learned about this word, pesticide. There's other words, infanticide, always to kill something, right? Genocide. But yeah, the systematic, okay, they're doing this on purpose, killing of the love of reading in your schools. So we often just read to learn something. We read for a test, but we're not reading to learn to love reading. So I remember the second thing was what? Was that reading? It's not something natural, but it's something that makes our brains evolve. So don't give up reading. Find a book, get a list of books, put it on your phone, download them, buy them, steal them, borrow them. I don't know. Get a book. Read that book. And make a story. And write. And think. And share. And do some like writing therapy, Whenever you're feeling bad, write it down. Then read it again. And then understand something. You can always do your own therapy. Just gotta have good practices. All right. Enough pontificating. I do this often, don't I? What is that word? Pontificate? Oh, there it is. Pontificate. Mr. Bob, always pontificating, express one's opinions in a way considered annoyingly pompous and dogmatic. Pompous, what does that mean? It means irritatingly grand, self important. Somebody who's pompous is kind of what? Uh, kind of a narcissist. I'm not a narcissist. Come on. Dogmatic, to lay down principles as incontrovertibly true. So that's hard. Dogma is like, I don't know, the beliefs of a religion or of a person. Really strong principles, beliefs. Anyways, so do this if you can. Finish, add some more. If you did it already, add some more. You guys are the storytellers, not me. And then we'll try to find some songs. So let me add that we need to add songs. A song. Okay. So now you guys can add other things. What's your favorite love songs out there? What's a song? Next. Add a song, drawing, or actors, pictures. We're like turning our story into a Netflix TV show or something, you know? Anybody out there, what's your favorite? What's a sad love song? Nothing? No? Nobody? Don't have any ideas? Or do you guys just come and leave your computers on? Well, you guys do your work. Okay. And yes, next week on June 2nd. Is it? Uh-oh. Don't look at my thing. I should make it earlier. I have to go to Nevşehir next week for a conference. So yeah, next week. Your task B is gonna be due. Task B is due next week on June 2nd. Do that. I will try to grade them while I'm at the conference. Get them back to you. Actually, no, I won't grade those so early. You'll also have a first draft of an essay to work on as well. So, lots of things. Lots of things. It's getting to the finish line. Assessments, tests. I know, we all hate them, but it's something we have to do. There we go. All right, let's get to the meats and potatoes. All right, let's talk about Lars 3 Longman Academic Reading Series. The third one, Chapter 10. All right, we've gone through this book pretty well, I think. Not this one, Bob. Let's look at Lars. See what we have here. We're just going to do the first reading today. Sociology. What is sociology? The scientific study of societies and the behaviors of people in groups. I'm sure sociologists have so much now to talk about and write about. Change the ideas to be able to understand how our culture has changed so much due to technology, to the world changing, climate issues, politics. I'm going to say mainly technology, though. I think we've had to adapt quickly to it, and we still will continue to adapt even quicker. So I think it's really important right now to be a good student, because I think there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to need to learn in order to be not even 21st century students. I mean, we're getting there fast. We need a new term for that. 21st century sounds so old. 20, I don't know, like AI driven workers, you know. Even our lifestyles will change. We'll get advice from machines. And hopefully we follow some of the good ones. Um, but yeah, we need critical thinking skills. We need reading skills. We need to be able to understand context. We need to be able to, I think, really understand how to read, because everything's going to come out. Not even just to read, but to listen and to interpret and to answer and question things and to really just question what we're doing, why we're doing it, right? This is why you learn to read. All right, so sociology, the scientific study of societies and the behavior of people in groups. Okay, well, society is a group of people. Every society has different cultural norms, different beliefs, different traditions. And within those groups, this society or culture, there's different, even more differences, right? Based on where you're from, um, you know, history, religion, climate. I mean, you know, how the weather affects people, like how, I don't know. I feel like people from Belgrade, from Serbia, they say that Turks are very similar to them in terms of culture. They always talk about 500 years of of Turkish rule. Sorry, Ottoman rule. 500 years. They always tell me. Every person I meet says, "Yes, we were invaded, controlled." They use the word slaves. They were slaves to the Ottoman for 500 years. It's just the word they use. I don't, you know, and they don't hate Turkish people. They don't, no, not at all. They actually really like Turks. They drink Turkish coffee. They call it domestic coffee, but everybody has a jezvel in their house. And when you ask for coffee, they ask you what kind of coffee. So, you know, there's a lot of things that are traditionally Ottoman, Turkic, that still is there, you know. It's a very interesting culture. I mean, you can find Turkish food. There's a shop in Belgrade. You can buy baklava. What else? I didn't think I saw any mosque, but, you know, culture, places. But the people, it's, you know, it's not like a frozen cold place. It gets kind of cold in the winter, but the people, I think, are very similar to Turkish people. They sit, they drink coffee, they talk. They are usually outdoors when it's sunny. You know, very big groups, a little loud sometimes. They're kind of these stereotypes, but it is kind of true. They just get real loud. Americans are always just loud, but I think it's funny when somebody's like laughing and it's just like the whole room just like turns around. What else? Yeah, but you know, when you go to somewhere colder like Poland or something, well, people get a little less together. They're, you know, the weather, right, makes resources less available. When you have less food, well, you can't have big families and you can't have big groups. You have to be more separated. You need to be able to find your own food. This was in the past, in the you know, the Neolithic times, and it still kind of holds true. Like genetically, climate changes people or lets some people survive and not others. You know, just like we have different animals in different parts of the world who have adapted. And their genetic, whatever, polar bears being white to be able to hide in the snow and to kind of block the sunlight. Blocks the sunlight, doesn't absorb it. Things like that, right? So people become genetically changed when you live in different regions, and then you have this thing, this migrations of people, immigration, immigration, people leaving. There's more Serbians living outside of Serbia than Serbians living in Serbia. That's because of war and migration and people wanting to leave their countries for whatever reasons. How many Turkish people live outside of Turkey? Does anybody know? We can find out somewhere. We can ask Google. We can ask. Let me ask. Let me ask my resources, and then we're going to start reading. How many Turkish people live outside of Turkey? Come on, give me a good answer. All right, 2020 is estimated that there are several million Turkish people living outside of Turkey. This is from 2021, so the exact number is difficult to determine due to various factors such as migration, naturalization, and varying definitions of Turkish identity. Yeah. Turkish diaspora, the community outside of Turkey, is dispersed throughout different countries with significant populations in Germany, France, the Netherlands, the United States, and several other countries. However, for the most up-to-date and accurate information on the current numbers of Turkish people living outside of Turkey, I recommend referring to the latest data from official sources of international organizations. No, we'll never figure it out. So yeah, I don't know. Somebody said there's like 20 million Serbians living outside of Serbia. And there's like 8 million in Serbia. 2 million in Belgrade. Lovely city. I'd love to live there someday. So we'll see what happens after next year. All right. We're talking about crime and punishment. What is this reference to when you think about the words crime and punishment together? It's from a book, right? Dostoevsky. You guys have read him. Yeah. In this chapter, you will predict the content of a text from the first sentence or title and subheadings. So the topic sentence, right? Same thing we did last week. Deal with difficult scientific names. Okay. We always have to deal with that when we're learning a new subject or a different subject. Guess the meaning of words, of course. Look at some scientific verbs. I don't think we're going to be doing all of this, but have you ever been the victim of a crime? I think that's a good question for today. Are there ways to avoid becoming a victim of a crime? Most people in society are not criminals. Criminals deviate, okay, or are different from the normal behavior, from the norm. Deviation. To be a deviant means that you're like not normal. Okay, if you ever hear these words, it comes from this stem. Okay, deviate. Remember, this is Latin, as in that 8. We can change to like something like deviation. Or differ from normal people. Why do you think some criminals fall into criminal behavior? I have a theory. How does society punish deviant behavior such as criminality, causing a crime? Are all offenders treated equally, or do some escape harsh punishments? How? Let's watch this little video clip from a Netflix, whatever they call it, Reels or Netflix Short. No, YouTube.
There's a psychological study where violent criminals rated videos of pedestrians from 1 to 10. From easy to victimize to I would avoid trying to victimize.
So like a pedestrian is a person that walks. Again, pod means foot, remember?
Victimize that person. What they did was try to figure out who these violent criminals would attack. And there was a couple things. I like this one. People that the perpetrators would look at and say, I probably wouldn't assault that person. They had something that they called organized quality. So the person just looks organized. If you look squared away, it's a real thing. Yeah. People sense that. The victims, the way most of the people that were identified as, I would attack that person, they would say they had inconsistency in the way they walked. So how should we walk? How should we carry ourselves? I started diving into this.
What do they call it? Organized something?
into this rabbit hole a little bit. NBC News had an article written by, there's a psychological study where violent criminals rated videos of pedestrians from 1 to 10, from easy to victimize to I would avoid trying to victimize that person. What they did was try to figure out who these violent criminals would attack. And there was a couple things. I like this one. People that the perpetrators would look at and say, I probably wouldn't assault that person. They had something that they called organized quality.
Organized quality. Some people have this organized quality, like they're walking with a purpose. Have you ever seen somebody walking just like very straight, not thinking about, not like looking around and not staring at people, not slowing down, not checking their phone, okay? I feel like that's the number one thing on the streets that makes you likely to be a victim of a crime by perpetrators. Perpetrate means to commit, to do a crime or something like that. So we call them the perpetrator. How do we find that word out? Perpetrator. Perpetrate. See? 8. It's also a Latin word. Latin. To carry out or commit a crime or something. A harmful, illegal, or immoral action. The perpetrator. Uh-oh. Don't do that. Yeah, so this idea that if you just are walking in a crowded area, the best thing to do is just to be focused. To just, not look like you're just... Bleh. This is why tourists always get attacked, right? Or, pickpocketed or something, because they're just like looking at everything. They slow down, they take out something, they drink some water, they take some photos. They're not really paying attention to things around them. They're paying attention to like everything. And that, what he called inconsistency, not consistent. Right? Why did people fall into criminal behavior? I'm going to say the number one thing is probably poverty or lack of opportunities, right? When you can't find a good job, when because of whatever, the way you look, the way you talk, where you were born, all of those things that discriminate against people. If you can't find good work, well, you still have to provide for your family. So, it goes back to this question. We call it the gray market. Not the black market, the gray market, but if you were starving, you had no job and your family has no job because of whatever reason, tough financial times, is it okay to steal bread for your family? So that idea, like, is it okay to buy illegal things or stolen things to help your family? Do you buy it from these places? Do you buy things from the black market because it's cheaper? And so when you think about legality, and you think about criminality, when you think about those things, do people do it because do people do it because they're like born evil and they just like, I enjoy stealing stuff? I'm sure there's a few, right? There's some people that have a disease that's called kleptomania, where you just like taking things. There's like a thrill, a pleasure. But I'm going to say most of the population that does any kind of crime, they don't do it because they're like, ooh, I love stealing. Like, I just wake up in the morning and I say, oh, what am I going to steal today? Something new. No, I think that there's these... It's just when you don't have opportunities, when you don't have access to education, when people won't give you a job because certain ways that you look. I think we talked about this last week about bankers or, that certain people, I think somebody said Jewish people work in certain areas, right? Certain law, certain banks, things like that. And it's because of discrimination that those things happen, right? So I mean, I always ask people like, what, who are the people that pick up the trash in your city, or who cleans the bathrooms, blah blah blah. And I always thought it was interesting because in Japan, it's always old women, but Japanese women. I don't know if that's changed now. They've had more immigration from Southeast Asia, countries like Vietnam and mainly Vietnam. Um, I don't know if that's changed, but coming from America, most of the people doing, I would say, call it the SHIT jobs, were other people, like my immigrants from different countries, people maybe that had illegal backgrounds coming to America, maybe, illegally in the country, without any visa or residence status, permanent residence. So I don't know. I always have to think about that. I don't know if I told you guys, but I was a victim, I guess, of a crime recently. Not too recently, a month ago. I was not being having this thing called organized qualities. I was. It was very early in the morning. I was checking my phone, walking. It was like around Cameralta, and somebody, I felt like, rode by on a bicycle and kind of made a motion like this, but it was so slow. It was almost like a joke, like he was telling me, "I'm gonna steal your phone," but he didn't. And then somebody in front of, after he left, there was a guy in front that was staring at me, and he does like some weird Chinese kung fu, like, "Wah." And I just, I barked at him a bit, and so he got real upset, and I like took a photo of him. I was like, this is weird, but I wasn't very organized. It was very inconsistent that morning. Just early morning, trying to go to the dentist, and I get to the tram, Konak Escale tram, or no, the tram, and he follows me, and I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen? And then he comes up and he attacks me. Okay, I'm okay. Nothing was broken. But and people were like, call the cops, and I said no. But nobody really stopped him. He just walked off. They stopped me. They told me to go onto the tram, and I was like, okay. I was a little shaken, but not nothing bad happened to me. But I went to the dentist. Okay. And the dentist, I told him the story. He says to me, you know, the guy must have been Syrian. And I said, I don't know. I don't think so. He was talking to me in Turkish. And I show him the picture, and he said, oh, then he must be Kurdish. And I don't know. It was just strange to me that was like his answer. Must be somebody, not me, not like us. But and he said, you should call the police, and I said, I don't like doing that. Nothing was broken. I didn't. I was more worried this guy would do something to other people. But I also believe in this thing. We call it what's it called? Reconstructive justice. Restorative justice, to restore something. I don't believe in making people go to prison for things. I think you should sit down with them and talk and explain and apologize. I mean, I should apologize for being rude as well. So, and you can be rude on the street, but when it leads to something happening to you, well, then you've probably gone too far. And there's certain people you should avoid, but I always ask this question: why do you think some people fall into criminal behavior? And it was like a Friday morning. It was on a holiday. There's nobody there at this. At Cameralta. When you walk from the metro to the tramway, right? There was like nobody out there. I mean, these guys didn't have work or school or whatever, right? That's it. I don't know. When you're bored, well, then you look for opportunities. And when you get desperate after not having much, well, I don't know, you do something, I think about if everyone had good role models, strong families, good examples in life, good teachers, good uncles, whatever it is, you tend to not go that way. It's, and it's mainly opportunity. If you have no opportunity, if you're not like in school, if you're not, in a job that you actually enjoy, well, there's other options out there to do things that are not great. So I always think about that when I think about crime and punishment, right? And yeah, I don't know. I don't like this idea that you throw somebody into a prison and they have no more opportunities. Like in America, if you go to jail, well, it's on your record. And if you try to find a job, well, it's that people say you're a criminal and they won't hire you. Okay? That's what happens, right? You have something you did as a young person, you made a mistake, or you were wrongly accused, or you just did it, but you have no more second chances because after that, whenever a company or an organization looks at your record, they say, we can't hire you, you're a criminal. And what happens to that person? Well, they can't work anywhere. And then they have to get a SHIT job, which they hate, and then they find that, they can make better money doing something more dangerous, something illegal. That's the system that we put people in. We'll talk about that. Let's talk about that. Read the definitions of the word in bold, okay? The burglary, the crime of entering a building to steal things. Okay, so burglars are people that go into houses. So this guy is a burglar, right? And that burglary only means about going into somebody's house or building. Okay, so if somebody's ever snuck into your house to steal something, or if you've ever done it, then you're a burglar. Or they are a burglar. Correctional institution, right? A prison or place where people are sent as punishment for crimes. Also a penal institution from penalty or punishment, okay? It's just another word for jail or prison or something like that. It just sounds nicer. It sounds like, oh, that's a nice place where we go and fix people, right? This is what they call it. They call it a euphemism, okay? Whenever we change words like climate change, that's a euphemism. It's a mild or indirect word or expression. It substitutes for something harder, okay? So downsizing is the word they use for firing people from jobs, right? Oh, our company is downsizing right now. It sounds nice, It's not saying, oh, we're firing all the bad employees today, right? It's a cool word, too. I like euphemism. It's a euphemism. So yeah, when we call something a correctional institution, well, it's not like a prison anymore. And we call like perpetrators people who perpetrate a crime instead of criminals or thugs, right? We're changing that word. Sometimes it's a good thing. We don't always want to be so harsh, Everyone's got a different thing in life, right? Murder versus homicide. What was the word? Oh yeah, but with like climate change, it should be called a climate crisis or a climate disaster. Why do we call it climate change? That's why people are like, they'll argue with you and they'll say, oh, the climate always changes. And I say, yeah, of course, But what we're experiencing are disasters related to it. Can we change it? Yes. Does it change naturally as well? Yes. That's why it's a stupid name for an important problem. So let's call it something else, Call it climate crisis. We can call it the climate disaster. The ongoing climate disaster. Counterfeiting. Okay, copying something, money, handbags, etc., exactly in order to deceive people. Homicide, the crime of murder. Okay, so when you go to like watch CSI Miami or something, you're gonna hear these words, right? Incarceration, the state of being kept in prison, to incarcerate someone. So remember these. Okay, always, when you see these Asians, okay, these are Latin root words, okay? And you can always change it back to the verb. So this is a noun, right? But you can say incarcerate, or to say throw somebody in prison, lock them up, lock her up. No. Inmate, another word for a prisoner. Someone who's kept in prison or a mental hospital. I wouldn't say an inmate is a mental hospital unless it's like a criminal mental hospital, like Arkham or Arkham Asylum is an inmate. The Joker is an inmate of Arkham Asylum, but I don't think we think of mental hospitals anymore as criminal institutions, criminal correctional institutions. Okay, offender, to offend somebody, right? That's weak, right? I offended you. I'm an offender. No, someone who's guilty of a crime. And also remember that word perpetrator, 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 perpetrator. The perp. If you ever watched any TV U.S. crime shows, they might say the perp. Okay, we like to shorten things. Recidivism is a difficult word for a difficult subject. A tendency to go back to criminal activity even after spending time in prison. Okay, to be a recidivist. Okay, all of these isms, right? We can have change the M to a T and it becomes the person, right? Communism, a communist. Activism, an activist, right? What else? Marxism, a Marxist. Racism, a racist, right? What else? Other words do you know with the ism? Right? These are all these Latin roots. Okay, very important. Let's look at the word recidivism. Recidivism, recidivist, the tendency of a convicted criminal to re-offend, to do it again. Where's this from? Oh, okay. No, this is from the French. Sorry, isms. These are all French. Is that true? Racism. Probably. All right, and the last one, rehabilitation. A program that restores a person to a useful or healthy life, right? So if you are addicted to something, addicted to drugs, there are drug rehabilitation centers. If you're addicted to whatever you're addicted to, there's a rehabilitation center. You might have to do physical therapy after something, so you're doing rehab. There's that famous Amy Winehouse song. They tried to make me go to rehab. I said, no, no, no. All right, burglars. Let's try to do this. Got a word wall. Let's find the synonyms for these words. I'll throw it in the box over here. We'll turn off the sound. Sound effects are okay. So a burglar. Let's find a word that is similar. Okay, correctional institution. Let's find this another similar word. Counterfeit, homicide, incarcerate, inmate, offender, recidivist, rehabilitate, recidivist, right? So now we just changed it a little bit. Because I think the other one was also burglary, right? See? We're changing it a little bit. Not all of them. Burglar, which one? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. There's an I there. Is that an I or an L? I don't like that. That's an I. Oof. Oof. Oof, Bob. Any guesses? If you're at home, pause it, do this, but let's go. Burglar. Someone who robs houses, right? Correctional institution. And now we're looking for a noun, right? This is institution. Any shuns out there? Those are all nation. Paish. No, that's not the same. Yeah. Tion. That is usually like the concept or belief of something, and it's like a noun. A jail. Okay. See how these words are what we call euphemisms? The euphemism. Euphemism. Euphemize. Not to be, what's it called? I always did this as a kid. Mix it up with the word euthanize, which means to kill somebody. Euthanize. But it's kind of like their choice. It's a bad morning to talk about all these things. Counterfeit. I forget. I don't know if it's true anymore, but I mean, for sure, Turkey has like one of the highest amounts of actually makers of counterfeit items, right? Counterfeit. So you can go any market in Istanbul and buy some fake designer things, right? Homicide, 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 homicide. Hom in this case means people, right? To kill people, like Homo sapien. Let's double check. Dictionaries are great. You guys should always, hom from man. Sorry, man, human. The man. Come on. Speaking about that, I love this thing where people used to think, or there's certain people that say woman. Oh, it's not even a word because it comes from man. Like you put woo and then it becomes man. I think it's now the opposite. Like the fact that woman contains a man, So that's the real word. It contains this thing, and you think about things like birth and pregnancy and things like that. Within a woman is a man, right? In the word. What a cool concept. I read that in a story. Homicide, killing someone, killing a man, killing a person. Incarcerate. Which one is that? Okay. This is a verb, right? We're looking at a verb to put in prison. An inmate. Okay, nice little fancy word for a prisoner. Offender. Somebody who is a lawbreaker, commits a crime. Recidivist. Okay, it's a person, right? IST, activist, racist. A repeat offender. Okay, so they're somebody who is offended. Offender. What a funny word. I offended you. You're an offender. I'm a recidivist. I keep offending you. I'm a repeat offender. Reform or cure someone, to rehabilitate. Okay, so we can go to a rehabilitation center. We can rehabilitate somebody. And those are more synonyms. Okay, so these difficult words, the best thing to do is just to find synonyms for them that equal that, okay? It'll be a better way for you to memorize things. Okay, so like somebody said, "Oh, and I have a favor." So somebody in the what's it called? The feedback from week 6. Wow, 7 weeks ago. I should do another feedback form before the class finishes. Somebody mentioned that they wrote in their iPad like 15 pages of notes. I would like to talk to that student in a good way. I mean, I would. So if you're that student, if you can message me, email me, send me something on Google Classroom, I would love to talk to you, kind of interview you about how you do that. I would love to see your notes because I want to teach like a presentation about note taking, about why it's important, about how now, brown cow, how even now, because I was teaching about this thing, note taking. Because I've been teaching about note taking, I've been taking really good notes. So these are all the notes I took at the presentation at the conference last week. And I like to be visual with my notes. This was a great one to be really visual with. Let's see if it'll open. So sorry, segue. So if you're that student, please. Okay, everything breaks. This iPad, it's getting old. Just like me. Come on, come on, come on, old guy. You can do it. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Oh, there it is. So this is some notes that I took. I like to draw I like to use colors. So drawing on the iPad's great, but if you're using pencil paper and you have some colors as well, like my pen has like 4 different colors because I'm a very visual person, as if you couldn't tell, but it's talking about different metaphors for teachers. So we think about the apple, think about the gardener. In Tanzania, Africa, they think of the teacher as the scratchy sweater, the person that like wakes you up. I mean, keeps you like, I don't know. Iran, the idea is a key. In Saudi Arabia, it's coffee. Palestine, it's the sword. Oman, it's the candle. Georgia, it's this like head within a head. In India, it's a cow. And not to like make fun of somebody, but to say that cows are calm. I forget where the leaves falling is, which is kind of sad. Like your teacher, yeah. And the metaphor she used was sailing. And so the 8 different things that she learned while sailing, and how that like is a metaphor. It equals some kind of thing about teaching. So, and then I was writing that my metaphor is boxing. Bang, da-da, da-da. But yeah, note taking, and now I do it. I'm not a student, but I actually remember everything from the presentations because of that. It's a learning tool for me, and if I want to look at something that I wrote, well, I got it. I can look at all this stuff, reading between the lines. This was the one about the reading one. So she called herself a weirdo because she reads books. Physical books. She gave some quotes. She talked about the biliterate brain, which means you can read like from a book, but you can also read media. So from your iPhones, those things on social media. So if you're that person, just like hit me up. Just send me a DM, send me a chat, something. Let me know if you're interested. I would love to talk to you about that. I think that would be super to learn what you use and why, and yeah. But here's the answers. Whoops, I guess I gave you the answers. Let's leave it. I forgot to send the code or the link for this Miro board. If anybody, you guys should get onto these Miros. Maybe not this year because we never started it, but probably next year. Oh, somebody's there. Somebody's alive. Yay. I don't know who you are. All right. So let's take a break. It's 11. We'll come back at 11:10, and then we'll do the reading, and then we'll do the next reading, and then if you guys have any questions, so yeah, let's take a break. We'll come back to this. Let's come back at 11:10. We'll do another 50 minutes. Maybe I like this schedule better. Maybe on Thursday we'll start at 10 because I have a lot of things to do this week. So come back at 11:10. I will see you guys. Peace out. If you have any questions, save them for the next time. Okay, see you guys.